Hi everyone, delonewolf here and welcome to the first episode of ETH Talk for 2016. And it has been the week between Christmas and New Year, so there's not been a lot of news and not that much action in ETH Online. But of course, one big thing could be the end of the plex sales, the end of Frostline. I'm not sure if that's still going on, but it should end anytime soon. And the impact of that on plex could be pretty damn interesting. So let's jump right in here at 35 seconds and we'll take a look at what plex have been doing. So plex right here, 30-day pilots, a license extension, and they are now going for 1.13 billion, pretty much 1.115 for the buyer. So pretty much a normal margin, I would say, of around 15 million ISK. And if we look at the chart right here, we can see that we went very close to 1.1 billion on some of the data points. We bounced off a little bit, and right now, well, at the very tail end, you can see still a slight drop on the 5-day moving average, but we are closing in on the 20-day moving average. The question is, will we ever cross here and go back up? I believe we are, because we have gone up a little bit from last week, of course. And with the end of the sale, this downward pressure should stop. All the plexes that will have been seeded from Frostline may have had an impact here as well, and that should stop from dropping the price even further. And so we should go back into, I think, the more normal dynamic of plex prices increasing. On top of that, if we try to take a look at where we come from 6 months ago, 0.95 billion, we went up here, and then just try and draw these lines out. We have some catching up to do, and so I do think that plex will be back to 1.2 billion pretty soon. So the one interesting number that I would like to see at some point from CCP is how many plex have been found inside the Frostline sites. That could help us to get an indication if the Frostline events will have had a noticeable impact on the supply of plex or not. But okay, we are slightly going up. We're at least hesitating here on the tail end to keep going down towards 1.1 billion. And honestly, I don't think we're gonna cross that anymore. So here is the multiple pilot training certificates. It knew a bit of a sharper drop and did actually cross 1.1 billion, but the market decided to stay right above that pretty damn soon. And now here we can see a pretty similar pattern where there is this bit of hesitation here and no real willingness in the market to actually cross 1.1 billion. And what this is, what I'm seeing in this as being potentially pretty interesting is that the multiple pilot training certificate actually called the bottom for plex right here. So it broke 1.1 billion way sooner than what plex did. Plex was still at 1.2 billion at that moment, but then the market said, no, okay, that's low enough, we're not going to really go below 1.1 billion, and plex never crossed that line either. So the strong correlation between the two could actually help us predict when one of them moves more violently than the other, and that's usually, I think, going to be the pilot training certificate because of the lower volumes. And so this could be something pretty interesting that I'm definitely gonna keep an eye out for in the future as well. When we see a more violent move on the training certificates, try and see if that's a little bit of a predictor for plex as well. Could be pretty interesting, but at the moment it doesn't look like we're gonna break 1.1 billion, and I do think that the upwards pressure is going to be back here in the plex market. Next up here we've got the body resculpt, also finally stopping its descent, heading back towards 220 million. And there's really not that much to say, except that here the 5-day moving average has already crossed the 20-day moving average. And here it's in the process of doing so in a multiple pilot trading certificate, and there's a little bit of hesitation in the plex. Could just be because there are quite a few people that still have plex from the sale and from the Frostline sites that are waiting for the right time to bring them to the market, and that could be any time now. It's just trying to stop the actual ascent if they want the ISK. But yeah, if we look at this as a predictor 1.1 billion as the bottom. Pretty good job here for the trading certificate, and then we'll see if the crossing of the 5-day moving average is also going to happen here in Plex, and if we'll start going up, which I think we are. Let's take a look at the next batch here, the minerals. That's going to be 515. That's done, and here we go. Titanium going back down a little bit, but I don't think it's any reason to panic. This is well within the normal margins of 6.3 to 6.4. No, 6.2 to 6.4 ISK, and the 20-day moving average is staying very nicely right on the 6.3 mark. So people saw titanium reach 6.4 ISK. I think the sellers may have been a bit higher than that, and then they said, okay, that's probably a good time to sell some of my stocks off, causing an increase in supply. But I think we are in for a sideways movement here at the moment, where the market is just going to vary naturally in between the ranges of like 6.2 to 6.4 ISK. The buyers are at 6.2, the sellers are at 6.33. There's quite a few, look at that. Buy orders here, 100 million, 750 million, several more of 100 to 200 million. So there is definitely strong demand. Look at the seller side here. There's one order of 700 million, but the rest is quite a bit smaller. So this gives the edge to demand, which is probably going to push the price back up. It may come close to 6.20 on the chart here. But I do think we'll just keep moving sideways basically in this range in the foreseeable future for titanium, especially considering that right now demand has the upper edge again, and supply must have had the edge right here when we actually reached 6.4 ISK. So it looks like a pretty healthy market to me. Next up here we've got pyrite. Pyrite, let's see here, definitely testing a bottom of 11.10, but if we look at 11.10 to 11.5 ISK as a normal range, that could be okay. The one thing though is that the 20-day moving average is definitely still going down towards 11.2. So I would not be surprised that we'll actually have a much smaller range right here in the end. And yeah, pyrite has done some more volatile movements here on the chart. So is 11.10 the actual bottom for a trading range for this high-sec mineral? It is possible, but some data points below that could indicate that if we have too strong supply, we could actually go well below that. Demand here, look at that, not that many new orders, less than a day old. We've got one of 50 million, one of 14 million, but that's about it. And on the seller side, we actually have older orders right here of 22 and 12 million units that are here as the lowest at the lowest price, and then we have a few smaller ones here coming in at 1119 as well for 3,400,000. That's not really that substantial, but there is no clear winner here because it looks like both in the sellers and in the buyers, people are actually waiting it out a little bit. There are not that many new orders. It's actually older, bigger orders in volumes that are still dictating the ranges. And so at the moment, I do think pyrite is still under threat a little bit if someone decides to sell some stocks, because it is looking like pyrite is slowly trying to go lower and lower. It could be a good idea to actually try and sell above 11.2 now. If we do break that, we could see a completely different range, maybe even 10.9 to 11.10 or something like that. Maybe 11 could be a strong bottom as well. But I do think that this downward trend here, this pressure, is a little bit dangerous for pyrite. If someone decides to drop his stocks, it could be a trigger to actually see a very low range of trading for pyrite here. So be a little careful on that one. I don't like the look of this chart. Next up here we've got Mexalon. That one is definitely heading towards 60 ISK in a pretty stable manner. Let's take a look here. 60.5 for the sellers. Almost half a page of new orders, 60 million units, something like that being brought in. On the demand side, maybe a little bit less in the amount of orders as well, and in the volumes, maybe 20 million units or something like that in the last 24 hours. That means that there is still a bit oversupply, but demand is there as well. And yeah, Mexalon trying to stay above 60 ISK. The buyers are trying to get that just below that, but yeah, they have to compete. The last order is actually of 12 million units for just below 60 ISK, and yeah, if you actually want to get it from the buy orders and you want to be sure of it, I think you will want to jump just above 60 ISK to actually pick up your Mexalon. So Mexalon is probably going to trade in a range right around 60 ISK. And it's done so in a pretty smooth manner, which is completely counter to what we saw here in Pyrite. And so I do think that Mexalon has a much better chance of staying stable, whereas Pyrite, I'm a little bit afraid of that one. Next up here, we've got Isogen actually breaking 110 ISK. And as I've said, once something like that is done, we could see a completely different range for trading for Isogen. And here we do see that the 20-day moving average also continually being dragged down. We stayed below the 20-day moving average for the 5-day moving average for almost an entire month. So obviously the pressure here was on for supply, and we're now selling for 107 for the buyers, 108 for the sellers. It does look like they found each other at this point. New orders, not that many of them, so people seem to be hesitating, which I think is normal at these lower prices. But let's hope that Isogen can actually stabilize here between 105 and 110. It's already going to be quite a bit of a loss for anyone that decided to invest on Isogen here, hoping for better times to come. But it does show that there is some pressure starting to show up in the high-sec minerals as well, which have been the winners in the last few months or so, especially compared to the null-sec minerals. And be very careful, because both here for Isogen, you know, it has some momentum. It does look like the sellers and the buyers are starting to meet each other, and that we will probably not break 100 ISK on the downward movement here. But you never know, if someone decides to actually go for a liquidation, then that could actually cause Isogen to start trading at an even lower rate. And Pyrite here is a pretty bad sign as well, that this could happen. And then of course, if you have a few high-sec minerals starting to trade lower, then it could be an incentive to mine the other minerals more exclusively, and then that is of course going to add to the problem, possibly starting a downward spiral. But I'm hoping that of course the Citadel expansion could put a stop to any real downtrend in the high-sec minerals for now. Let's take a look at Noxium next. Yeah, that's again not looking too good here. Even the 5-day moving average is crossing 470 ISK. Sellers are at 466 and the buyers are at 456, so they are pretty close, but constantly testing that bottom at 470. Will we go back up from here? Let's hope so. But 10 million, 11 million units here still being brought in at 466, and then we get another 9 million units here, another 10 million units here, all of that in the last 24 hours. Obviously there is still a lot of pressure on the Noxium prices here at the moment, and we could go as low as 450 on the buy orders pretty soon. So that is not good news, because I thought that probably 470 could be a bottom. It had managed to stay above that for most of the time here, and obviously work its way back up when people saw 470 as a good buy opportunity. But we are toying with that one again. 20-day moving average still on the downward trend, so the pressure for Noxium is on here, and let's be careful. Will we see Noxium break this price point and actually start trading like just above 450? It would be pretty interesting, and it would obviously be something that is not expected considering the two other bottoms that we've seen earlier in the last 6 months. And then let's take a look here at the Gnostic ones. These are finally hesitating, so Zydrine is trying to stay above 900 ISK, 5-day moving average, crossing 20-day moving average. It is trying to stabilize here. Supply-wise though, 10 million units right here as the latest and cheapest sell order. That is of course something that is going to keep the price from going up in any substantial way. But there is some demand here, 1 million units, 1 million units. More than half a page of orders less than 24 hours old. So it does look like Zydrine is going to bottom out above 900 ISK, finally, having to retrace quite a lot of its gains which we had last year due to the mineral rebalance patch. And then Megasite, of course, doing something pretty similar, bouncing off of 1000 ISK. Here also 5-day moving average crossing, 20-day moving average, or just in the process of doing so. That actually looks like these are going to start moving sideways, maybe testing those bottoms from time to time, but I think they're pretty strong at this point. But one thing to, of course, continually worry about, look at that latest order, 32 million units still being dumped at 1100 ISK or even below 1100 ISK. That, of course, means that there is no real upward potential for these minerals right now. Yeah, there seems to be general pressure at the moment, except for the most common minerals. Titanium is still doing quite okay. Mexalon seems to be able to hold, but on all of the other ones there is actually really a lot of supply coming in, and some pressure on all of these prices. Pretty interesting. The first time that I'm actually starting to see production costs go quite a bit lower at the moment, being pressured. Quick touch on Morphite. Actually breaking 11,000 ISK here on a few of the data points, but still trading just above that. So 10,926 for the buyers, 11,200 for the sellers. So honestly doing quite okay, although we are of course at a low point for 6 months now, and so it looks like the overproduction in nullsec is starting to translate into the Morphite market as well, but it has done much better than Zydrine and Megasite, who have had to retrace almost all of their gains. You know, I think more than 50% loss in the last 6 months or so. Here for Morphite, going from 12.8k to 11k, it's definitely not as big as the other nullsec minerals. So this one is doing quite okay. Could be that there's a lot of Tech 2 production, which could also be, of course, the reason that we're actually seeing a more stable Tech 2 market. In the last few weeks we've seen that. So moving on to Tech 1 chips here, 17 minutes. Let's just write down 17 minutes. And we'll take a look and see if we actually see some pressure from the lower mineral prices. Unfortunately for the Armageddon, that's a big no, heading back towards 210 million. But we did see that there's just not enough Armageddons being brought to the market here. So there's very few sell orders. They're decent in volume, but they are at very high prices. And so the Armageddon is still being traded for quite a bit of money. Next up here, we've got the Caracal. Yeah, worked its way up, but we are seeing the pressure here at the tail end, so didn't really manage to go that much higher than 11.5 million. And supply-wise, this is looking like a pretty good stocked market. They're actually starting to trade below 11.5 million already on the sellers. Buyers trying to stay below 11 million. That's actually not bad, and good to see some supply here for this ship. Almost 2/3 of the front page are less than 24 hours old. We're probably talking 200 to 300 caracals being brought here. So not bad, stopping the increase in price here decently quickly. Next up here we've got the Dominics, same situation, a nice spike up to 210 last week, but the industrial response has been here, so you can also see that they're being brought to the market, and they've been pushed down from 210 to 7 to 6 to 2 now. 203 million for the sellers, 190 for the buyers. Pretty big margin on that, especially when Dominics was trading at 210. That's a 10% margin. That's actually something that you could actively trade on a little bit. Yeah, the pressure is on here, and we are seeing finally a decently fast response to an increase in price that caused a good opportunity to actually bring those to the market. Here's the Drake, first one that we're actually seeing some pressure going down to 53 million, which is, well, I would say just below the average for the last 6 months or so. And back in a normal trading range for the first part of the last 6 months. Supply-wise, this is looking pretty decent. Yeah, obviously it is. Look at that. We've got quite a few Drakes on the market here, and trading well below 54 million at the moment for the sellers, 52 for the buyers. Closing the margin on a downward trend here. We'll have to see what its trading range is going to be on an upswing. Next up here we've got the Mauler, also stabilizing below 12 million. I would like to see it closer to 11 million. That may need some time. Sellers 11.9, buyers 10.9 though. So they are definitely trying to to keep the buy order price of the maulers below 11 million. Supply wise, this is looking pretty good. Almost the entire front page less than 24 hours old. Probably more than 100 maulers being brought here, so pretty damn good. Looking like it could finally stabilize. Here's the Myrmidon, pretty similar as well. Managed to trade up to 58 million about a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, but the response is here and now we're back to 54 million. And supply wise, yeah, not bad. Look at that from here. All of that is less than 24 hours old, probably 60, 70 Myrmidons coming in here, and we still have quite a little bit of other sell orders as well, with more patient people that are willing to wait and hope for their Myrmidons to actually sell closer to 55 million, which is going to help stabilize the market. So I'm seeing the first signs that we're finally stabilizing. Here's the Oracle, tried to work its way up several times, but every single time it looks like the industrial response is faster and faster, and that we're actually stabilizing at 80 million for an Oracle. And supply wise, well, not a lot of new orders, so we're obviously at a low point here, close to 80 million, so we may work our way just a little bit higher in the upcoming days. But there are still oracles on the market at a decent price range from 89 to 82.5 million, and so luckily that should stop the price from going completely crazy. And if people decide to actually bring a few more oracles to the market, we're in for a more stable Tech 1 situation once again. Here's the Raven, pretty similar here, dropping off to 185 and now bouncing right off of that. Supply wise, at least there are Ravens to be sold at ranges from 190 to 188 at the moment. Buyers 181. So there is demand, there is supply, there is a good chance that we're finally seeing some more stability here. Here's the Stabber again, trying to go up to 11.5 million, but you can see the peaks, 13.5 at the very first one. That was a major event in the Tech 1 market. Then 13 million here, just above 12 million, here 11.5 million, and going back down already. Supply wise, look at that, there are Stabbers on the market finally. More than half of this is less than 24 hours old, probably 150, 160 Stabbers being brought in here. So it is slowly starting to stabilize, which is pretty damn good in my book. Here's the Tornado, also starting to come back to its normal trade range of like 72 to 75 million. Something like that. And again, the downward trend of the volatility here, the increase in numbers that are here, although, well, that's pretty surprising. It's quite a few of them that have been brought several days ago, and then here we have 108 of them selling just above 76 million. That is trying to sell them here, but that is putting a bit of a stop on the increases that are possible for the Tornado, which I think is pretty good news. Just this one sell order, less than 24 hours old, of 108 units is pretty good, because that's several days of supply. If other people have Tornadoes to sell, they're gonna help stabilize this market as well. Next up here, the Typhoon. Ooh, the Typhoon is the one that is not going for more stability, bouncing off of 178, but currently trading for 197 million. So that's obviously one of those buyouts from a major alliance, maybe a speculator, but I suspect a major alliance that built up a Typhoon fleet, seeing as they could pick them up below 180. They just said, all right, everything below 195 probably, something like that, just let's buy it and bring it to our alliance home. And that's why we're completely empty of these. So Typhoon is probably something that will be produced in the next few days and weeks, and that will actually see some increase in supply. We'll have to see how quickly will the market respond. The more quickly that they can shows that they have some leftover industrial potential, and is also a sign potentially that we will have a more stable Tech 1 market. And finally, the Vexor also finding its stability just above 11.5 million ISK. And that's of course decently supplied as well, with half a front page of new sell orders being around 200 Vexors. Pretty damn good. So Yeah, the Tech 1 markets, the Armageddon, you could probably make some decent money on these, and the Typhoon, that is probably something that's a good opportunity here as well. But on all of the other ones, I'm finally starting to see the first signs that there is more supply and more stability coming to this market. Lower mineral prices will hopefully help keep the situation going, because personally I do think that a stable Tech 1 market is pretty important for newer players, so that they know exactly what to expect when they want to fly a certain ship. Next up, the Tech 2 market, 25 minutes. Let's see if we have some trade opportunities here, but unfortunately the Basilisk is just continuing to stay within that pattern of lower and lower volatility, so that's a big no for me on the Basilisk. Here's the Cerberus starting to trade a little bit higher above 190 million, so I would say that having been able to buy Cerberuses below 180, it was your buy opportunity. This is over, unfortunately, and now it's waiting for the right sell opportunity. Like well above 200 million would make you a decent amount of money, I think. Yeah, again, this is within a pattern of lower volatility, so not too good. I think your buy opportunity is over. Next up here, we've got the Guardian. All right, it's trying from 130 to 145, back down to 130, again up here and now going down. Where are the buyers? At 127, I think it would be okay to risk some buy orders on the Guardians here, and you can see that you had several sell opportunities that would have made you some money. It's good to see the Guardian at least showing some volatility. Next up here, the Hound, just too stable, a picture of stability. You look at the highs just going lower and lower and lower, and look at the low points going higher and higher and higher, and now just finding its price at 17 million. All the stability has been sucked out of this market. We've got really big supply here, so I do think that people are just producing stealth bombers at a pretty rapid rate at the moment, just strangling any volatility in this market. Next up here, we've got the Ishtar. Surprisingly enough, that one is doing really well. You had buy opportunities below 160, close to 155, and at 160 here. And now they're trading for 175. The sellers are at almost 180. That was an opportunity. And so the Ishtar, okay, that one was actually trade worthy and showing a decent amount of volatility in the last few months. And at the moment, if you have some that you managed to buy on the cheap, it's a good time to try and sell some of them. Next up here, we've got the Manticore actually taking off here, when as low as 20 million, currently trading for the sellers at 27 million. So someone bought a Manticore fleet, which I think is finally good news, because it is the first sign in a long time that people might actually start making covert ops stealth bomber fleets once again, and the first sign of instability, of some volatility in the Tech 2 advanced frigates covert ops market. Very happy to actually see it. Unfortunately, it's in the Manticore, which I don't like because it is more expensive than all the other ones. I actually think you can get more bang for your buck in the cheaper ones. But alright, you probably managed to buy Manticores close to 20 million. They're now selling at around 27 million. So if you're happy with the 20% profit on that, I think selling them for 26.5, 26 million at the moment is a good move. How long will this last? Not too long, but first sign of volatility in a stealth bomber in a very long time. That's good to see. Finally, the pattern may have just been broken. Next up here, we've got the Nemesis. Same situation, although I did call that very, very low bottom below 17 million. We're back up to 18.5 million. So that was more than 10% a worthy trade. But the question is, where will it go from here? If it actually starts to meander around this price point, then it's not the moment to actually risk either way. If you manage to buy them at 17 million, honestly, I would just hold on and hope that at some point someone comes in, buys a lot of Nemesises, and that you can sell them for more than like 20 or even 21 million, which I think is not impossible if indeed stealth bombers are starting to come back a little bit. judging by what happened in the Manticore. So the Nemesis, if you've bought them below 17 million, I would personally advise patience, but it is a sell opportunity as well at the moment, of course, because you do have some profit. Next up here, we've got the Oneros. All right, at least it showed some instability, some trades potentially here from 140 to 175, back down to 145, up again here, and now again breaking 145, working its way up pretty damn slowly. So this is maybe a time to still try and buy below 145, although that gap is closing pretty quickly as well. And at least it showed some volatility, so the Oneros, you could still say that making some investments on that could be a good idea. Next up, the Purifier, again showing that stability in the stealth bomber market, which I don't like. So hopefully there is going to be some change in that, but obviously the Purifiers here, you don't want to move either way. Next up here we've got the Scimitar, very low bottoms of 120, showing first sign of a bounce back, which is up to 133, so that's around 10%, I think, potentially. So that was probably okay to risk a trade, but I do think again here for the Scimitar, if you manage to buy them close to 120 million or even below that, as you can see on some of these data points, I would again advise some patience. Because this is only a first jump up that is going to probably stop at this point, but potentially, you know, you've seen this on the chart here, right here, you can probably try and wait to sell them above 140, which would be a healthier profit. And then finally the Vengeance, again surprisingly enough, moving from 90 million to 21 million, so that is a 10%, that is a worthy trade. Coming out of the blue for me, so not sure what the story is behind that, but yeah, Vengeances did show the first sign of a trade here as well. I'm personally hoping that both the Vengeance and the Manticore here will be the triggers that is going to bring back some volatility to the Tech 2 market in general, and hopefully in the frigate market especially, because that's actually affordable. That is something where you could actually risk 10-20 of them, and if you actually make the trade on that volume, you have a decent profit every time, and I do like this. But it was too stable for too long, and it's good to see the first signs of instability, volatility in some of these Tech 2 frigates. Let's hope that they can drag the others along here. Moving on to the Tech 3 markets, 3150. We'll quickly go over these. The Confessor stabilizing below 65 million. Supply numbers look pretty damn good, especially 84 of them coming here as the latest order, so that's looking pretty good for the Confessor, managing to maintain a price below 65 million. Next up here we've got the Hecate, which didn't move up to 70 but is already going back down. So the supply response, well, I wouldn't say it's that big because I'm not seeing that many new orders. But there are at least still some Hecates and some bigger orders on the market that are going to keep slowing down and stopping these increases in price from completely going out of hand. Still, Hecate close to 70 million. That is still some volatility, moving from 55 to 70. That's definitely not bad, but it is being squashed pretty quickly at the moment. Next up here we've got the Jackdaw stabilizing below 60 million. Supply wise, this looks pretty good as well, with 41 of them coming in just a few hours ago. And then we also have this Vpool, which is breaking out towards 70 million. And is it empty? Yeah, as you can see here, the response is trying to come in with few sell orders, but they're still trying to take advantage of these higher prices. And so yeah, in this Vpool is probably a sell opportunity if you have some of them lying around. But I do think that there is enough potential at the moment for production to actually stop this increase pretty quickly. Let's take a look at some of these cruisers then. Legion showing the pressure stabilizing at around 180. Supply wise, this is looking quite okay once again. Around 20 of them coming in the last 24 hours. Decent volumes on the market. Here's the Loki, again pretty decent as well. Some new ones coming in, some older ones still available. So that one is also stabilizing, actually breaking 180 million. Then here we've got the Proteus. Again, the pressure is on, going below 180. Supply pretty decent. So it's pretty obvious that people are going to produce and make some Zwepels at the moment, because that one went up quite substantially and is probably the most bang for your buck at the moment. But at least all the other ones seem decently supplied. Here's the Tengu then, also stabilizing below 190. Supply numbers, that looks pretty healthy. And so although there is still some volatility in the Tech 3 market, which is normal now that we have 8 ships in here, I do think that there are some signs that this will stabilize as well, because almost all of the other ones, only the Hecate is a little bit of an exception here, are really well supplied as well. So we'll see if the volatility is going to start going down to like 1 or 2 ships a week, or is it going to pick back up if someone actually makes like a big move on some Tech 3s. That is always possible, of course, but here also I'm seeing some signs of stability, some signs that the industrial potential is picking up and starting to bring more ships to the market once again. And then as the extra products for this week, we are at 3520. I'm going to take a quick first look at the command destroyers. So advanced destroyers, command destroyers, these new ones like the Pontifex, yes, stabilized well below 60 million, so they're going for 55 million on the sellers. And look at that, that's quite a bit of Tech 2 production coming in here. And here we've got the buyers at 50 million, so the margin between the sellers and the buyers has already closed quite a little bit. And I think that these ships will be trading in this range in the foreseeable future. Some data points, 140 million, 200 million, so I don't think that people went that crazy with the newness on these command destroyers. And it's a good thing to see, honestly, that we don't see these crazy prices of billions of ISK on the release of a new ship anymore. The market is really pretty efficient here, and people manage to bring big volumes pretty damn quickly. Next up, let's take a quick look here at the Stork for the Caldari, also obviously going below 60 million, 55 for the sellers, 53 for the buyers, so that is completely closed, the margin between buyers and sellers. And again, very similar in price, really nice volumes on this as well. People try to take advantage of it, but one data point at 200 million, and that's pretty much it. After that, the price range has been found pretty quickly. The Magus or Magus for the Galente here, actually going close to 40 million ISK on this one. So 46 for the sellers, 41 for the buyers, 10% margin around that. Yeah, not a lot of new ones. That is a little bit surprising. So I think that the Magus is actually a little bit low at the moment, and people are producing the other races command destroyers rather than bring more of these to the market. So that one will actually probably work its way back up a little bit, I think, until we reach these sell orders at around 54 million, bringing it in line with the other ones. You can also see that there are 2 recent orders trying to get towards this price. And then we've got the Bifrosts, which here as well went as low as 40 million very quickly, but that one is actually actively being traded at around 47.5 million, the buyers at 44.6 million. So the question is this a difference? Is this a difference between the needed products maybe that is causing the Galente and the Minmatar ones to be lower in price, or is this just the demand supply cycle that is actually helping the other ones manage to stay at a higher price range? It's pretty interesting. It's something that we will touch on from time to time, I think, because these are the newest amongst the newest ships to come out, and it's actually, I think, the first Tech 2 ship in quite a while to come out here. But it does look like the industrial potential for Tech 2 is actually pretty damn high, because that's quite a lot of them that have been produced in a very short amount of time, stabilizing that price in really record time, I think, compared to some of the craziness that we've seen when the first tactical destroyers were deployed. If we go quickly to that chart, is that more than a year ago already? Yeah, more than a year ago, unfortunately. So we can't see the very first data points anymore. But that was quite a little bit different than these command destroyers, which found their price range pretty damn quickly here on this chart. No crazy billion is first data points or anything like that. So there you go, guys. The new command destroyers, they look like they're decently affordable as well. And honestly, it's looking pretty good here. Maybe it could be a sign of some increased activity in EVE Online, that I'm seeing some more supply coming in both Tech 1, Tech 3, and even here in Tech 2. Really healthy numbers for a new ship. Anyways, that's it for this EVE Talk then. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.